Hey, I'm in this spot again. Technically, I can go down the stairs now. I'm doing great. I hurt my ankle, for context. But it's a whole hullabaloo to get all of my gear back downstairs and get it all set up again, and I just don't really feel up to it today. So next week's chapter, well, next week is break week. Next week I'll be in front of the bookshelves again. I'm not gonna live on this porch swing, though I could. So chapter 1093, I thought was an excellent chapter. Granted, the Luffy versus Kizaru confrontation, I expected to be a lot more explosive than it was, but I think I like this better. I laughed through this entire chapter, and I think it showed off more than it needed to. I think that it could have been this big, hype, explosive, whoa, they're fighting and giving their all, but instead it seemed like they were almost playing with each other. Anyway, the chapter starts off with Luffy. Obviously, in the last chapter, Luffy had grabbed Kizaru unaware. You know, he didn't know that he was coming, went into full gear 5th, grabbed Kizaru, and Kizaru was like, oh no. And in this chapter, he kicks it off with his gear 5th laughing through the fight in his goofy Looney Tunes sort of mood that gear 5th just naturally brings out of him, where he's kind of just, he's so over the top joyful that he can't even fully focus on the severity of what's happening. So he's back into that kind of mindset, starts twirling his arm and just chucks Kizaru to who knows where. He's out of the fight and then is laughing and having a fun time, and then turns and he's like, oh, Zoro, you're still fighting? Do you need some help? Like, he's not taking anything serious. And Zoro's just like, you just focus on what you need to do. I'm handling this. Like, come on. Kind of like, that's my captain. But to Luffy, this is all just fun because he's in gear 5th. So we have a lot of moving the chess pieces thing that happens where Atlas needs to go here in order to be able to handle the give the correct orders to the pacifistas, take over the ordering of them. We have Bonnie, we check in on her. She's turned a bunch of people, some are young, some are old, and we get context of what happened to Bonnie when she flew through the barrier, and the answer is Santamaru happened. He caught her. He's beaten down and broken and barely standing up, it seems, but he caught her. I assume he caught her, or at least picked her up. It looks like he caught her to me. And he's like, go. Run before the Navy gets here. Honestly, Santamaru has become the star of this arc, or at least one of the stars of this arc. Coming into this, when I first saw him again, I'm like, I don't need you. I don't want you. I did not expect him to have so much development in this arc. His loyalty, his devotion to Vega Punk, his willingness to team up with pirates in order to protect them, and is squaring up to Kizaru, who he knew was stronger than him. He knew he couldn't win this, but he took that beating because of the loyalty that he has to him. The context of Kizaru and Santamaru's backstory and their connection that they have, and moments like this where he's holding her up with the smoke behind them, the explosions behind them. He's barely making it through, but he's still sacrificing himself to rescue her. Like, Santamaru, did you expect this? Did you expect this much out of him in this arc? I feel like we need to take a second to acknowledge how much he's given and how much of a star he's become in this arc. And this is one of the things that I love about Oda, is that he can take a character who we already have our opinions on. Like, we've already been through stuff with a character and we have cemented ideals about who they are, and then we can put them in a new context and get new layers for them and completely change who they are, and then they rise up kind of behind the scenes, almost subconsciously, subliminally. They're rising up, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I have so much respect for this character, and like, where did this even come from? Like, Oda is so good at sneakily building a character up that is already established and that we already have opinions on, and building them up quietly until all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, like, you're amazing. He's so good at doing that, and he does it over and over again in the series, and Santamaru is getting that treatment in this arc, and I'm loving it. We also have a flash reminding us that yes, Zoro and Lucci are still fighting, and then we cut back to Kizaru, who again was thrown into who knows where. Turns out he's just chilling, flying through the air with his arms crossed, just casually acknowledging, oh, the ocean's coming. All right, I guess it's time for me to do something. And then turns into light or light particles, and then whoosh, he's back in front of Luffy again and freaks Luffy out. Like, it scares him. This is so cool. The fact that I love the way Oda is illustrating strength in this chapter, where we have Luffy, who's now coming up against the man who once wiped the floor with him, coming up against him and laughing through it, just chucking him through the air and then casually going, Zoro, do you need help on your fight? Like, it's nothing. Like, Luffy's mucking about, which is to be expected in Gear 5th, but then Kizaru, who's being manhandled by Luffy, is just casually with his arms crossed going, this is an inconvenience. Anyway, now I'm here again. I thought this was going to be a really explosive fight where it's like Luffy hits Kizaru, Kizaru hits Luffy, they're both panting, they're both on the ground, they're both trying their hardest to get, I thought that this was going to be a One Piece fight, but what One Piece fights mean has changed. Gear 5th had me laughing throughout this fight. There were so many goofy, comedic, but also incredibly cool moments in this. It ended up being more of a technical fight instead of a funny fight. It still brought all of the hype, but in a different kind of way. But I also love that it shows how strong these characters are in the casualness of it. How Kizaru is just like, all right, that's the ocean, and I'm back. Shows how strong he is being able to fight this new Luffy, but then the casualness of Luffy shows how, I don't know, I just really like that. It's not what I was expecting, it's better. So Kizaru turns into a dozen Kizarus, which once again, you see this and on the surface you're like, oh no. So this man who once wiped the floor with us, there's now a couple dozen of them, and Luffy alone has to fight a couple dozen Kizarus. Okay, yeah, stakes are raised. That does seem like a big deal. So what happens is Luffy lines them up, tricks them into lining up, and just takes them all out with one move. That had me cracking up. I was laughing so hard because repeatedly we have these big moves happen that it's like, oh, okay, well, let's see how this plays out. And the answer is Luffy tricks them into lining up and just kicks them all at once. That's so funny. That's such a subversion of expectations where you have this baller move that should be a huge deal and it's just not. Same with Kizaru, where it's like, okay, Luffy has just taken out all these light clones, all these hollows in one go. This is a big deal. How's Kizaru gonna respond? He couldn't care less. He's not even in the lineup. This was just a distraction. He's just strangling Usopp over here, trying to figure out where Vega Punk is, because really that's his only goal. It's just such a subversion of expectations over and over and over again. You expect a big fight? Nah, Luffy just chucks Kizaru. Okay, you expect that to be a big deal? No, he's really not fussed. He's just gonna lightning speed right back here. Now there's a dozen Kizarus. That's gonna up the stakes. No, Luffy's gonna take them all out. Okay, fine, he took them all out. That's gonna bother Kizaru. No, he doesn't even care. He's over here doing this thing. Like, over and over again, you think you're getting a certain kind of fight, but that's not what One Piece is anymore. It's a totally different Gambit. And I love that because we've had these criticisms for a while now that One Piece fights are, in a sense, getting stale because Luffy likes to punch and everything is just, you know, create some side characters to distract the crew, to keep them busy. Then it's Luffy versus the biggest baddie and Luffy punches and we're done. But now with Gear 5th, we're introducing a completely different kind of fight. Every fight is like, okay, so what's gonna happen next? What's gonna come of this, right? And the answer is we never know. And when we have someone as strong as Kizaru against someone as strong as Luffy, it's two people that are constantly upping the stakes. and are constantly being able to easily topple those stakes over. Now, I don't think either of them is giving their all. I think both of them, again, are kind of mucking about. Like, Kizaru is basically dodging Luffy in order to just get to his objective, which is, I'm just trying to take out my friend because that's my order so I can get out of here. I'm not enjoying myself. And with Luffy, he's in gear 5th, so everything's a joke to him, which I love. This is just, I'm loving that we're doing something completely different, and there's literally no predicting what could happen next, and there's constant subversion of expectations within that. It's so fun. Gear 5th is so fun. Of course, that also adds the element of this is eventually going to drain Luffy. Eventually, he's going to be completely sucked dry and not able to do anything. We still have Saturn, who's just showed up at our door. Blackbeard's ship is still chilling somewhere out in the ocean. We haven't acknowledged that for a while. That still matters. Oh, hey. I am, but that's okay. What's up? Sorry, my neighbors came over to bring me dinner because I hurt my ankle, and they're just ridiculously kind. I don't remember what I was saying, but it probably wasn't important. So anyway, we've got Vega Punk and Atlas and also Sanji, and also, like, people are just grabbing on. They're just grabbing a hold of this Vega tank, and they're like, we're all going together. So they're all going, and I don't know. So first, obligatory acknowledgement that yes, Vega Punk did call her a little girl again. I don't know if that means anything. We'll find out. But anyway, they're all on their way to save Bonnie, which obviously puts them in great danger because, you know, Vegapunk has a big target on his back. I wonder if Vegapunk's not going to make it through. I wonder if the Stella isn't going to make it through this arc. I'm just feeling the sense that him going to protect her makes him so vulnerable that I don't know if he's going to sacrifice himself or end up being a casualty in order to give her and Kuma their last moments, assuming Kuma is on his way to show up at this arc as well, which we kind of, I think a lot of us assume, or what. But I'm just, especially in this chapter, I'm feeling a sense of dread over him. We'll see how it plays out. I don't have hard evidence. I'm just kind of getting that feeling of, oh, this doesn't look like it's gonna end well for him. Anyway, he does indeed have a target on his back, and as soon as he gets out in the open, Kizaru instantly is like, sweet, easy. And then Luffy eats the light ray and lights up like a lantern? Really? Really? I'm telling you, these fights are just different now. They're just different now, and they're so fun. You never, around any corner, anything that happens, you never know what's gonna happen next. And it's still snappy, it's still so quick, like moment by moment, second by second, things change because we're dealing with the big guns. We're dealing with people that are so powerful, so they can counter maneuver so fast. But whatever is happening, it's hilarious and it's so fun, and it's, I don't know. I think that this is better than what I was expecting, personally. I don't know how this is going over in the fandom, so you can let me know how you feel if you're like, hi, okay, well, I kind of expected something bigger with this Kizaru-Luffy confrontation, which is not over yet, or if you're kind of jiving with it the same way I am, but I just feel like this is such a refreshing new take to One Piece. Gear 5th has been such a gift to One Piece action, in my opinion. It subverts everything. It brings a whole new flavor to everything. It's still epic, just in a goofy, hilarious, joyful way. Anyway, the pacifistas have new orders now, and Saturn is knocking on our front door, so that's a huge deal too. So there's so much happening right now. A lot of it is just, you know, pieces moving on the chessboard, but we have Saturn at our back door. We have Blackbeard's ship just chilling out in the waters. Who knows what's coming of that? Kizaru's here, Lucy's here, our whole crew is here. Vegapunk is currently vulnerable. Kuma is assumedly on his way here. We have so much happening right now, so much build up, that even if the action that happened in this chapter isn't necessarily everybody's taste, which I don't know. Again, you can let me know how you feel about it. Even if it isn't everybody's taste, I think we have plenty of explosive things coming with this arc. So I'm really excited about it. And something, as I was going back and rereading the last 2 chapters that I talked about last week, something that I noticed, which I talked about before, that, you know, the admirals are being paired up with people that they care about, and are they going to be forced to make a choice, and like all that kind of stuff. The other thing that I noticed is the parallels that Oda is doing in the motivations, which, you know, I'm sure this has been talked about tons, but the fact that so many people like Kuma and like Santamaru and like the Straw Hats and like Bonnie are motivated by those they love. They're driven and they're sacrificing themselves and they're fighting through so much for the people they love. And then you have the admirals who are faced off against people they love and having to choose for the cause, or potentially they might choose otherwise. And I just really love that parallel that Oda is doing of sacrificing for those you love versus sacrificing those you love for the cause. That parallel, I think, is really strongly being emphasized, and I think that it's a really powerful parallel to be ending the series on. But what's to come? Like, what do you think? What do you think the remainder of this arc is going to be? Where do you see this going? Because the end of Egghead, I think, is so up in the air. I just have no idea what's to come. Like, there's some small things that we can predict, but as far as where's this going to take us, other than potentially, you know, getting off the island and getting to Elbaf next, is certainly a possibility, and probably that's where I'm kind of expecting it to go. But like, what do you think is to come as far as this explosive end? I would love to hear your predictions. My battery is flashing at me. It's about to die. Thanks for joining me for this chat. I'd love to hear your theories. I'd love to hear what you think about this chapter. I thought it was such a good one. I thought it was excellent. I post best videos every Monday and Friday on this channel, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the review channel, which is always linked in the description. I'm currently reading through Dragon Ball Z and To Your Eternity if you want to check that out. I'll see you again soon. Bye.